Hi everyone. Harry Styles is bald now. Here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of this new Chris Stapleton album, Higher. Kentucky country singer, songwriter Chris Stapleton, he's back with a new record, his fifth at this point, I believe, following up his 2020 album Starting Over, which is honestly one of the best country albums of this decade so far, not just because of the incredible range and soulful vocal delivery that Chris brings to every record, but also the rustic and rockin' combination of country and soul and folk music in the instrumentals on this project. Not to mention this album was just a breath of fresh air from the typical pop country trash that we're used to hearing Nashville and the labels pump out these days. And recently I've been happy to hear more artists follow suit with that. Seems like more rootsy and alternative sounds are finally hitting the mainstream and country again. And I had no doubt that Chris would continue to kill it in that vein with his forthcoming project, forthcoming songs, whatever, considering that, his stuff in the 2010s, set the stage, paved the way a little bit for this return. So yeah, that's what I was anticipating on this record, but actually listening to Higher, it kind of feels like Chris is pulling back a little bit on this one. Punching under his weight, running back to safer ground, going less wild. Really though, I'm kind of shocked at how tame some of the material on this project is. For one, we have the bland country rock anthem White Horse, whose sparkling riffs feel like the soundtrack to the next run of Ford Truck Month commercials. Kind of the same thing with the song Crosswind. And If It Takes a Woman isn't a desperate attempt at writing a first dance redneck wedding song that's to be played for years to come, I don't know what is. Meanwhile, South Dakota is an attempt at a fiery rocker about a place. But Arkansas, from his last record, kicks so much more ass, is so much more fun, and better yet, does not sound like a ZZ Top ripoff that's trying to set up some tension for a fight scene going down in a dive bar on a Netflix original series. And when Chris isn't watering his more aggressive moments down on this LP, he's subjecting us to these completely tedious ballads that have awful pacing and redundant lyrics left and right, like What Am I Gonna Do?, the opener, or Trust, or the track The Fire that just goes nowhere fast with these weepy cycling acoustic guitar lines and hand drums. And these tracks just serve as a reminder that Chris had so much more to offer lyrically just a few years ago. Some more passionate vocal performances too, like on the song Cold, for example. And the progression of these tracks musically is just super one-dimensional too. Rarely do we get any exciting or intriguing instrumental changes along the progression of these tracks. Moving deeper into the record, we also have Lovin' You On My Mind, which is a very awkward attempt at a sex jam. Not sure how well Chris really pulls that off. Meanwhile, the bottom is like some very average Springsteen worship being used to create this super cliched struggle with drinking song, which in terms of the details just feels like it comes from a very non-specific place. Now, look, I'll say this. It's not all bad. I would rather listen to this than a Florida Georgia Line record, and even during its most mediocre moments, Chris does bring those vocals, like those falsettos on the track Higher, amazing. But also in regards to Higher, this is one of a few moments on this record where the instrumental just kind of blandly hangs in the background, doesn't do much. It plods along, and, it's just, really disappointing. Chris has been somebody who historically has had really great, strong players on his records and has allowed them to shine on his tracks, and I just don't think that's the case this time around. I think Chris on this record, he brings those pipes, he brings that slightly rustic feel that we know his albums to have, but the writing and the instrumental performances, unfortunately, are not there. There's a super weak final leg on the record that leaves a sour taste in my mouth too, be it with the terminally lovesick The Day I Die, or the vaguely contemplative closer where Chris is singing about climbing the mountains in his mind without really getting into, again, the specifics on the verses of what those mountains are. Again, this just kind of feels like a very undercooked song, as we have lots of refrains that unceremoniously enter into the fold because they're not really built up to by the super scant verses that feel like they're vaguely gesturing toward being introspective but don't actually introspect. The only song on this thing I think I loved was I Think I'm in Love with You, which is this great country, soul, rock fusion track with a stellar vocal performance. I mean, I'm not going to say it's Chris's strongest pen game or anything like that, but the chorus is fantastic, the grooves are great, one of the best vocal performances on the entire record too, the band sounds tight. But yeah, outside of that, I just feel like this record is very average by Chris's standards, super average. He could have done so much better, he's done so much better. There's so many directions he could have pushed toward after his last LP. He could have at the very least stayed just as bold or thoughtful with the words he puts into his tracks, but he didn't. He just kind of ended up making a mediocre record this time around, and really that's it. I'm feeling a strong 4 to a light 5 on this one. Transition. Have you given this record a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best or the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Chris Stapleton, forever